I don't know if you recall that bombing in Ukraine that they blamed on Russia for about 2 weeks until they finally came out and said, uh, directionally, it looks that it was Ukraine. Do you think that we'll ever get a definitive admission, or they'll just kind of let us memory hold this hospital bombing and leave it?
Well, you won't let up, Sarah, and those of us who know the real story will keep trying to tell the American people what's really going on. But, most of the American people are so brainwashed, and I use that term advisedly, so brainwashed by what we call the mainstream media that they'll believe anything you tell them. And the mainstream media is totally anti-Russian and pro-Israeli, and so that can get us in a heap of trouble. Now, I'll give you one for instance. I'm from the Bronx, and we give you a for instance, right? As a for instance, remember how back in June, July, August 2016, in the midst of the campaign for presidency, where Hillary Clinton was being nominated in July by the Democrats? Well, it was very clear that she had stolen the nomination from Bernie Sanders, who didn't have the courage to stand up and say, Hillary, I've read those emails now. You really did steal the nomination from me, and I'm not going to endorse you. Instead, Bernie, good Democrat that he was, he said, oh, no, we have to throw our support behind Hillary. Now, what happened at that time? At that time, someone gave Julian Assange of WikiLeaks emails from the Democratic National Committee, the DNC, emails that proved that the deck was so stacked against Bernie Sanders, he didn't have a prayer. And it was not only Hillary, it was the whole Democratic National Committee. Whoa! When were those emails published? Right before the Democratic National Convention, the end of July 2016. Now, Hillary and the Democrats had ample warning because Julian Assange himself in mid-June had said, we have emails pertaining to Hillary Clinton that we're about to publish, okay? So they knew it was coming, okay? What was the excuse they gave? What was their very clever stratagem? Well, Jacob Sullivan, who was one of Hillary's campaign advisors, said, I know what we'll do. We'll blame, when those emails come out, we'll blame it on the Russians. And Hillary said, well, Jake, it wasn't the Russians, it was WikiLeaks. He said, that's all right. That's all right. That's no problem. We hate WikiLeaks as much as we hate the Russians and vice versa. So, yeah, let's say that the Russians hacked into the Democratic National Committee, okay? Stole those emails, gave them to WikiLeaks to make sure that Donald Trump would win. Now, they said that before the election. And what happened? Donald Trump won anyway, okay? Hillary just didn't have a campaign. And anyhow, what happened was this deception took hold. The Russians are responsible for none other than Donald Trump and none other than helping defeat Hillary Clinton. Now, that went into high gear, and Obama knew himself that this was a ruse. He was in on this whole problem, this whole ruse, together with Joe Biden, who was vice president at the time. They knew it was cockamamie, but they ran with it. They thought it would help Hillary win, and after she lost, they knew it would help defeat any attempt Trump would make to make a decent relationship with Russia. So what am I saying here? That was 2016. What is it? 2023. About 7 years ago. Okay. Now, do the American people know that Russia had nothing to do with the fact that Trump won? They had nothing to do with the fact that Hillary lost, that the proof is in the pudding. And when the head of the cyber firm, the name of the cyber firm was CrowdStrike, the head was named Sean Henry, who had worked for Bob Mueller for 10 years as a high-tech guy for the FBI. Okay, so when he testified before Congress on the 5th of December 2017, remember these dates because they're significant. He was asked by Adam Schiff, all right, Mr. Henry, so when was it that the Russians hacked into the DNC? And Sean Henry was about to say, well, and then his lawyer pulled him aside and said, Mr. Schiff, actually, there's no technical evidence that the Russians hacked into the DNC. Actually, there's no technical evidence that anyone hacked into the DNC. We never saw any emails leaving the net. So, okay. What's my point here? What did I say? That was December 5th, 2017.
17.
Okay. Now, Schiff took over that committee and he kept that evidence, that testimony, under lock and key for 2.5 years. Okay. And finally, in May of 2020, somebody said, "Hey, President Trump, if you want to get that testimony released, you're the president. Yeah, you could get that released." Now, well, how would I do that? Well, have your director of national intelligence tell Schiff, if you don't release that testimony, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it tomorrow. So what happened? On the 7th of May, 2020, that information was released. Now, they hid it in a series of 54 other documents, okay? But it was out there for anybody to see. What did the New York Times do? Or the Washington Post, Wall Street Journal? They did a Schiff on them, okay? They put it down under lock and key. So you do the math. May 7th, 2020, what's today? October 25th, 2023, mind you. If my math is correct, that's over 3 years that stuff has been made public, but suppressed by the media. Now, I mean, I wouldn't mention all this stuff. It weren't very consequential because most Americans still believe that the Russians are responsible for Donald Trump. There's a bromance, to use Obama's words, between Trump and Putin, okay? And they're conditioned to believe that Putin's a devil incarnate, and that if we have to do a war against Putin in, Ukraine, or maybe in the Middle East or Southwest Asia, as they call it now, well, the Americans will support that because they're brainwashed into thinking the Russians are responsible for all manner of evil that they're not responsible for. And just to point that out, just to cite that testimony is news to everyone. And then when they think about it, oh, yeah, prove that. And when I point them, now, get this, when I point them to the House Intelligence Committee website, download it. And they go there and say, it's not there. Oh, my God, not there. No, it was pulled. They put it to a different website. Now, you can still get it, okay? But that's the extraordinary lengths that these clucks have gone to. And, it wouldn't matter so much were it not for the fact that the American people easily moved to support whatever has to be done against those evil Russians. And then the evidence evaporates as soon as you look closely at it. You can't get that from the mainstream media. That's why I'm delighted to go and talk to your audience and try to bring them around to say, well, look, it's not the way it seems. There is documentary evidence showing what went down here. It's just that you don't know it, and it's not your fault for not knowing it. You got lots of other things to do. You ought to plug in to shows like this and maybe get a little bit educated.
That was Tim telling you guys to watch the show every episode. Just